Hello. So happy to be here and technology is working. I've been having some internet issues in my place, but it seems to work today. So I am very happy about this, to be here with you guys and do a Q&A. So if any questions you may, whether it's one that you've had for a long time or one that just arises as you listen into me speaking here or hearing me answering other people's questions, just type it in and ask. I'm always curious to hear what is going on for you, and most likely when we share, we often realize that thing that's creating some turmoil within us, right? That or some friction. It always felt like friction to me, but within me. And I thought this was just me going through this. This is why am I so weird? Why do things never work for me? Why is this so complex for me? I'm so different, and all these kind of things, right? But when we openly share some more, we realize, oh, there's other people who go through something very similar. I'm actually not alone in that. Oh, this is just another symptom of complex PTSD. I had no idea about that, right? And one that really comes to mind now is that I don't know, right? So many don't realize that every time we think, I don't know, should I do this or should I do that? Is this the right thing or is that the right thing? When I don't know the answer to this, right, that I don't know, this is a coping mechanism. And I want to talk a little bit to that, right? And also, because this has been coming up so much for me in the last week, 10 days, in my one-on-one coaching sessions, I am taking actually clients again, one-on-one coaching. I have single sessions and I have a 1 month intensive, but I only have one spot for that. I don't do groups at the moment, but it might be coming soon. But that I don't know has been coming up in the sessions. It has been in my inbox, and it has been in my own sessions. I still work with mentors for mainly do the self-realization, to really get to the core of my own true nature. And in those discussions that we were talking about that concept of the don't know mind. So it seems to be a theme. So I thought I'm going to bring this to this call today. It just came up again. So we'll discuss, we look into this, because some of those things that cause friction within us, once we shine a light on this and allow this to be there and just as it is, not fighting it, not resisting it, not making it wrong or right or whatever, right? To just, oh, that is here, right? Here is that sense again that I don't know what to do, right? And not making that wrong, right? I don't know about you, but for myself, I used to beat up on that, on myself, right? Because I did courses, I had coaching, and I did a lot of that to get rid of this, right? It felt so limiting, and I got so frustrated about this. But what I want to offer here is to realize that this could just be a coping mechanism for you as well. Now, sometimes things happen in childhood, whether this is traumatic or just something very innocent, but there might be situations where you not knowing the answer to something was perceived safer, right? This usually happens at an unconscious level, especially when you were very young. Or maybe the opposite happened, that you knew something and you said something and it had big repercussions, right? And let me give you an example so it makes it more sense. Typical thing, the Santa thing. Perhaps you knew that Santa wasn't real, and you came home and you told your little sister or brother, right? You knew, and then you shared that. And perhaps your family situation wasn't very healthy. Maybe there was some toxic parent, maybe they were drunk or whatever. And that was turned into this huge, ugly thing, very abusive emotionally, that you should not have said that. So you may have internalized in that moment that me knowing something and sharing that what I know is not safe, right? On a nervous system level. And these kind of things can keep happening, right, in our life. And they can be very innocent too. It doesn't have to be blown out into something abusive. It can just be in school settings, or, that you perhaps knew the answer to something and the other kids didn't, and they created a little bit of a I am different to other kids, or other kids knew the answer and you didn't. Well, all those kind of little things, they have this cumulative effect, and we take this into our adult life. And if we don't investigate it, if we don't shine a light on this experience, like the bodily sensation, that's what I invite you to, right? Next time when you're getting that, I don't know what to do, I don't know the answer to this, I don't, that it has a specific signature in your body, those sensations, right? What that does within you. It's often very hard to describe them in words. For some people, there's more sensations in the chest area. For some people, it's more like a pressure or a tight band around the head, or the stomach's going around. I don't know what it is for you, but to just sit with that sensation and allow that to be there. It's like, okay, really curious, right? Ooh, wow, right? Because there's just sensations. And I think that's what gets so tricky for us with PTSD, and what other people often don't understand is that because of our traumatic experiences and stuff, our nervous system has a huge reaction to sensations, right? It's almost like there is a small sensation in your body, and that amygdala sends off the alarm, right? I often say it's like the smoke alarm in your house, right? You want that smoke alarm to go off when there's a real fire. You don't want that smoke alarm to go off when you just burnt your toast a little bit, right? And in the PTSD thing, our smoke alarm, the amygdala, keeps going off when we just burn some toast, right? We don't want that to happen, right? So, but when we can be more, I don't know, tolerance is not the right word. When we become more comfortable, perhaps, learning in our therapy, or however you work with, or by yourself, or with friends, or in groups, whatever, to just that allowing yourself to be just a little bit with those sensations, and remind yourself that it is safe for me to explore them. It's safe for me I'm in an adult container now, right? With my adult capacities to be with that, and realize and teach the nervous system, hey, actually nothing dangerous happens. If I just sit here, it's, oh yeah, that feels really uncomfortable, but nothing big happens, right? And that takes a little bit of practice there. I get that, but perhaps with that example, with when we don't know what to do, that we can start there. Some I don't know, there can be uncomfortable sensations arising for a lot of different things, but you want to choose something to work on that is just slightly uncomfortable, right? If that creates too much overwhelm for you, that because that's been going on for so long, and it's just like, it's too much, I can't cope with that, then don't start there, right? Choose something different, right? Even having the shower a little bit cooler than you would normally have creates an uncomfortable sensation. Start there. Or whatever, right? It's using something that activates your nervous system slightly, but doesn't overwhelm your system. Does that make sense? Let me know. Maybe someone in the comments, we have a few here, so you can share or ask questions. You're most welcome to ask questions if that's not clear to you. But that to go there when we're having that sense that I don't know, but that not knowing is not a bad thing. I really want, because we're so quick with this was one of my coping things, that are very black and white thinking. This is right, this is wrong, right? If it's not clearly right, it must be wrong. There's no in between here, because the in between is not safe. My nervous system is like, no, I'm not having that. It's got to be clearly right. It has to be a clear good. Otherwise, it's bad news. I'm not going there, right? And recognizing that within you. But so any concept like that, like the not knowing thing, there's also a good aspect about this, right? And that's what I was more exploring with my mentors, or it's more perhaps to explore my own true nature, to find that you actually have to get into a place of don't know mind, right? I don't know what else. And I like that how the people have that metaphor about the butterfly. You know, a caterpillar doesn't know what it's like to be a butterfly. And in a sense, our changes, right? When you have mental health diagnosis, when you're feeling really sick, in that moment when you're sick, when you're suffering, when there's a lot of pain and stuff, you don't know what it'd be like to have something different, right? Especially if you had a lot of childhood trauma, when that suffering was always there, or if you've grown up in poverty, you don't know anything but poverty, right? That struggle. You don't know what it'd be like to have it different. You can imagine it, you can read books about it and things like that, but I don't know. And that is that concept here again, that don't know mind, that can create a little bit of anxiety again, right? For our amygdala to go off and make us think that is dangerous. But it could be something beautiful, like in terms of the metaphor of the caterpillar turning into a butterfly, right? It's not bad. It's this. It doesn't goes from caterpillar to the cocoon. I think, is it called cocoon in English? Yeah, I think, and then the butterfly, right? You know that the sequence. There's no. It has to happen. I just noticed my camera does this sometimes. It has to happen. It's a natural occurrence, that shift. And I think this is something when we can learn that on our PTSD journey, on our healing journey, to be a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable in the changes, and trusting that change could be something beneficial for me. It could be something that I can learn to love, can learn to enjoy, right? I don't know where you're at right now. If there's a lot of pain and suffering, that even that thought that more joy in my life could be possible could almost create friction in you, right? I used to not even resistance. I just didn't want to hear it, right? I had so much pain and suffering in me, and I wanted the world to see what all this abuse and trauma had done to me, right? And I didn't actually want to shift out of this. As crazy as it sounds, I was in deepest depression, and I had psychologists and therapists and coming around, giving me practices and tips on how to shift from that energy, or from that feeling of depression and sadness, to get into a more joyous. But I didn't want to have joy. I was sad. And I wanted to for people to get, I am sad. And that being allowed to be sad, right? That is to acknowledge that. If you're there, give yourself permission to be sad. We're so quick in our society. This is the whole self-development and the whole psychology, that whatever arises, whatever emotion I have, this is wrong. You should be happy and joyous and peaceful and calm. And it's like, no. There's a reason there is irritation. There is a reason there is anger, right? They all have a message for us. And it is in the situation to discover, what is that message? I'm feeling some irritation and frustration and anger coming up. What is this about? And perhaps if you have done some work, you can shine a light and open up a little bit. That person just stepped over my boundaries. That person has different values to me, and I can sense this is off. I don't like it, right? So that feeling had an important message for you. It's not wrong. It's allowed to be there, right? So I just wanted to point that out. But Naomi, hi Naomi. It does make sense. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I found on my healing journey, metaphors have really, really helped me. I just love them. It helps me to I don't know, because sometimes those emotions and sensations were just so overwhelming, so big, that if I kept them inside of me and tried to talk about it in more conceptual ways and psychology terms and whatever we have, right, then it felt, oh, I can't hold it. But if I use a metaphor, like I also love the sky metaphor, like I am the sky. Right, it's a beautiful metaphor. A sky is like that endlessness. I have space, right? The clouds, and perhaps you could choose the sun is like a happy emotion. The clouds is a bit moody. You can have storms, right? But you have all these different weather patterns coming through, but the sky always remains. It always remains the same. It remains unchanged. Have you ever noticed that within you? Like really feel into it, like not up here. Don't try to think about it, right? Get into your body and have a sense of it. Is there something in you that even in the deepest of this depression, deepest of despair, helplessness, hopelessness, there is something there that has remained, that was there, and that is also there now, right now, as we're speaking here. There's an essence there of you that's always there, right? That's like the sky. And our emotions and our thoughts are like the weather patterns that move past. And the more we can let them move past and change on their own course without us trying to control, this is me, I'm a control freak. How much, I kid you not, it's over a decade, the amount of money I put into courses and coaches and trying to control my emotions, being really make that happen, create situations so I experience joy, and I have certain emotional states that I want more than other ones, right? I wanted to be so in control of all of this. And it has a place, right? It's not every approach that we try, there's something there that that is of benefit, I believe, on my journey, right? Looking back, yeah, maybe some things I didn't need to do for as long as I did them, but it had a purpose. It helped me to see something from a different light, to experience something different, and teaching my nervous system to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more curious, a little bit more open in trying some new things, getting a little bit more playful and creative in that sense, right? And to bring that back to when I was talking about I don't know, the don't know mind, that is actually key for creativity, right? When we want to create something new, you don't want to do that from a place that I know and get all the memories and everything that you learned from the past and create something from that, because what you create is just like something that's already been there. It's not something new, right? The newest or best invention, they come from nothing, right? There is no, it has to be a don't know mind for being creative and exploring that part of it, right? So I'm a little bit off track. There's so many things. I think I haven't been doing enough videos. So this morning there was so much stuff. So, I want to share this, I want to share that, and there's all these things coming up. But it's all good. It's I don't know why my camera does that. If anyone knows how to fix that, I'd love to know. But back to those where were we? The emotions. The metaphor about the sky. So the less we try to control that, like we can't control the weather, right? It comes and it changes on its own course. The more I can be okay with whatever emotion comes up, whatever sensation that comes up when I feel like I don't know, right? That tingling, that irritation, allow that to be there. And not fight it, right? And sometimes in that allowance, there might actually be memories coming up from the past where it's, oh, yes, I remember that. That's one of the first times I felt like this. Oh, this has been a pattern of mine for most of my life, or since teenage years, or whatever, right? That might come up as well. And then you can just hold that with a little more gentleness, right? A little bit more love, a little bit more kindness, because that is what our nervous system is lacking the most, isn't it? Because so often we can be so almost cruel with ourselves. I certainly. The way I treated myself, what was going on inside of me, was definitely cruel for a long time, many years, right? The way, the expectations I had of myself, and all of that, right? Perhaps you can relate, right? Perhaps you have a very toxic inner critical voice as well, right? And that the more we recognize where this is coming from, how this was created, how this unfolded, to realize it's not your fault. It's not your fault that it is there, right? There was literally no other way for you to survive. That was just a coping mechanism. And it served you well. But now you got to a place, I'm guessing, that's why you're here on YouTube and listening to videos and searching. And it's like, there's this friction, right? There's this part of you who is still running those old patterns, but there's another part of you that is getting louder and louder. So that's not it. This can't be my life. This can't be going on forever like this. I want something different. And you're getting more curious, right? And to allow that part to be there, allow that, giving that more and more space gradually, so your nervous system learns, oh, this is not dangerous, to give that part of me some more space to sit in that a little more, being more curious, being a little bit more open. Oh, actually, and literally, like at the end of every day, I used to do reflection. I don't do that so much now, but I used to every day, just to go back and look at the day for some things that went okay, right? But mostly also to remind myself, even though I had uncomfortable sensation, even knowing I was really worried that might happen, none of that happened, right? To really show that my nervous system's so overreactive, it always anticipates the worst, the absolute worst, and not even half as bad happened, right? So that the reflection helped me to realize just how off the chart my projections are, or anticipations, that's the word, of what's going to happen in the day. So to really calm this down. So then eventually I could catch that during the day when my mind was really, especially in social settings, right? Because our trauma is interpersonal trauma, so most of our triggers are with other people. That's the, I guess that's the uniqueness of the complex PTSD. I don't really like the term complex PTSD so much, because the word complex implies that our brain already thinks that we need complex solutions for our to improve our life, to improve our health, and all of that. But when we're having a diagnosis that had that word complex in that, it amplifies it so much more. And ironically, that the things that were most healing for me on my complex PTSD, and I don't even really think I have PTSD anymore, or I don't think I qualify for it anymore, because the symptoms, I don't have the symptoms anymore on a daily basis, or not even weekly. I haven't had flashbacks, oh man, in years, right? Or nightmares or things like that. That it doesn't happen anymore in in this body and at this moment, right? to keep that in mind, that things can shift. But the things that shifted were very simple practices. Simple, very simple, right? Doesn't need to be complex. And for me, mostly it was because I am so intellectual in my head, mentalizing, thinking about things, right? This is the research in me. I've done a PhD in internal medicine, so I worked in the medical research field for a long time. I've been tutoring at universities. So everything was in my mind, right? That analyzing, thinking about it, trying to figure out the cause and the strategies, and that was me. Having to let that go a bit and going more into my body, right? Because that doing all that was for me an escape of looking at what the sensations are in my body. It was like a trying to run away. So because I never really, I don't know what the right word for that. If we can't acknowledge the emotions as they arise, we kind of push them down. It feels like this is accumulation, this buildup. So my body, when I always felt so heavy, and there was such a big burden that I had to carry, right? Because I never allowed whatever came up to come up and let it come out of me, for like a better way of describing it, right? Because I was intellectualizing it so much, what's going on. I hope that makes kind of sense. So the more we can be in a body and allow whatever emotion and sensation comes up to come through and out, the lighter and lighter you feel, the more at ease you are in the day, the more calm and peace there is. And there is even calm and peace when there is anxiety, when there is irritation, because I'm just allowing it for it to be there. I'm no longer making it wrong. And yeah, just very, very different way of thinking about it, I guess. But it's available. Carrieland, hi, you made it. Hello. There's still that fear that if I feel hopeful or happy for very long, it will be taken away again. The need to hide my feeling is automatic. Yes. That feeling, it will, is it that feeling that I will be disappointed again, that feeling I will be let down again, right? And we can put so much energy into that, right? Worrying about this before it even happened. Especially around social settings, right? I remember at times it was so intense that I worked myself up to have a migraine that I couldn't even attend that social setting because I was so in my head about that whole disappointment and letdown. And it was always two-sided, that thinking that I am a disappointment and a letdown and a burden, and also do not wanting to disappoint others, and also that others will disappoint me and not being able to support me and things like that. Right? It was huge for me. I'm curious, does anyone else have that, right? Because this can be such a heavy burden to carry, that the disappointment. Yes, all inclusive and huge, right? It is. And we it can start weeks before, when we're going there. We're already thinking and playing that out in our head. And it is that catching. It's almost like it has momentum, right? Those stories. Have you noticed that you keep, it might be one of the first things that come to mind when you're waking up. It's already there, that story about that disappointment, whatever the details are for that story, it doesn't matter so much, but it's there and it grabs your attention, right? It grabs your attention. So all you're thinking about while you're making your breakfast and coffee or whatever you're doing in the morning, you're thinking about that. And the key is to recognize, oh, it's grabbed my attention again, and bringing myself back here and now, right? To realize that the actual being disappointed, right? When you're thinking about the last moment or the last incident where you really have been disappointed by someone or felt like you've been let down by someone, right? That feeling, yes, it was bad, it was uncomfortable, but it is nothing at least in my body, right? How I experienced it was nothing in comparison to what I did for the weeks leading up to that event. The turmoil I created within myself every waking minute leading up to it, right? And then it didn't actually happen. Have you ever experienced that? How we can get so caught up and so worried about being disappointed, right? And to really look back to how that fear or where that comes from, right? Of course it is there, because a child is so dependent on the adults, on the carers to take good care of them, right? And when that was not there, it's just, how could you not feel disappointed or let down, right, by other people? And that is like it's a pattern in this in this body for me, right? It has been there. There's this underlying sense. Now I had to really look at this. Oh, this is where this started, and this is how it translated to now even me being constantly disappointed about myself. Is there a part of you that does that too, right? To recognize, oh, where do I feel disappointed about myself constantly? Where I feel let down by myself, where I feel like I should be further ahead or I should be able to do this or that, and it hasn't happened like that. And when we're working more or looking more at the disappointment within us, right? That pattern, how that plays out within us, the more grounded I am in myself, the more I honor whatever comes up within myself, the more I can accept myself with all the quirks and flaws and everything, right? This is me. Yeah, wow. Here I am. And the more I can do that, the more I worry about whether other people find me disappointing or not, or whether other people are disappointing me or letting me down, because I am so grounded in myself that if that person hasn't supported me, I don't, how do you say, I don't need them in a way anymore. I don't feel like I'm dependent. I don't, that childlike thing that I need to get this from that person, especially therapists. My gosh, did I feel disappointed and let down by therapists? And that is the projection, right? This is the playing out of my childhood stuff, right? in therapy. And I hear it from a lot of people, right? And my clients and friends and stuff, right? That feeling disappointed by therapists, right? And it is that childlike thing, and allowing that to be there and holding that gently, like, oh, here it is. Yes, I know exactly where that's coming from, right? I know why I feel let down here. It's not wrong. It's not right or wrong, but to allow it, to not resist it and to fight it. Remember, there's that saying that what we resist persists kind of thing. And with that disappointment, the more we fight it, the more we make it wrong. This shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't have that, right? that kind of energy, when we are addressing it with that, it will just amplify and it will show up in more things. But the more I can actually, oh yeah, here it is, of course, I know, right? And just shift the focus. But I'm okay. Fundamentally, I'm okay. I'm an okay person, right? Yes, I can look back and see some of those reasons. The fear of being harmed. If I expressed any feeling at all, oh yes, yeah. And that is so deeply ingrained in all of society, in our culture. And this is something I'm still working on for myself too, right? Because emotions are so natural. An emotion can only, on a physiological level, can only last about 90 seconds, right? It only lasts longer when we start creating stories around us while we have it, or whatever comes up, then we make it lasting longer. But if we can allow any emotion to come up as it comes up and experience that and be there, it won't last long, and it looks beautiful, and it's natural, right? But we so often, when you're just thinking about crying, tears, how much people avoid that in public, right? I remember that was just a few years ago. A beautiful friend of mine, he was on his last, he had a tumor. So this was his last few days. And I remember going into that room and there were other people in there, and I looked in the eyes of someone else, and there were tears coming up, and there was tears coming up for me. And we instantly stopped it. We both did. Because there is this thing in our society, it's wrong to cry, right? But why does it have to be wrong? Isn't it something beautiful to show that we are actually really sad that this beautiful person goes? But we feel like we're making other people feel uncomfortable if we show the sadness, or even uncomfortable if I am joyous right now and I notice someone else is feeling sad, feeling uncomfortable if there's frustration coming up for me over something, right? Well, if we stop fighting that and allowed emotions to be there, I think we would have a lot less destructiveness when it comes to emotion. No, like if I show my irritation and frustration, if I don't bottle this up, then I don't have these angry explosions where then things will break or people get hurt, right? If I allowed that to be expressed more naturally in settings with friends, that not feeling like I need to wear a mask, or I'm out at a party. I'm at a party, that means I need to have my happy face on, right? So I put on my clown, yay! And that's a coping mechanism too, by the way, right? That being happy for a lot of people, right? That's how they manage to shift energies within their home, by them being a bit of a clown, by them making fun. That created some, I don't know, safety. It did something in their family, so they learned, if I am the happy person, the clown, then things are safer for me, right? That we have the most twisted and things patterns that we create in childhood to keep us safest, right? To protect us, to protect the core, to protect us from humiliation, to protect us from abandonment, right? The disappointment in our case is so intense because it comes from such a young age. And it wasn't just a disappointment at that point, it was the fear of abandonment. If you dig down, you notice, oh, it's not just disappointment. If you look down below, why is disappointment such an issue for me? It is most likely because there's that fear of abandonment, right? If I disappoint others, or they disappoint me, I might not survive. Kind of, that abandonment and survival kind of it's underneath all of that. If it's early enough, right? It's a deep fear, of course. But when you see where it's coming from, right, from a little child perspective, of course it's scared of being abandoned. But then I have to also remind myself that in this moment, I'm in an adult body. I'm allowing that feeling. Oh, this sensation that's coming up is really, really intense right now. I know why it is so intense, right? But the less I try to fight and resist it, which is more the natural thing, if I actually can hold this with a little bit of kindness and gentleness, it's not gonna, how do you say? I always felt like it's going to be too much for me to cope, or it's going to never stop, right? I'm going to start crying and I'll never be able to stop crying. There's kind of weird things. It's like, no, just allow that to come up. Yeah, there might be, maybe I am really crying for an hour, right? Or something. But even in a social setting, if we have a friend, that the more we can just be with someone, not needing to shift people out of emotions, right? Then the more freer we all become. And I want to point this out here because we often get very triggered by other people trying to shift us out of emotions. But we do this all the time to other people as well, right? Especially children, right? How quickly are we to offer them a lollipop to change the mood, to change their behavior, right? We're constantly trying to change people into something else or another emotion than what it is, right? Or changing the music, right? To change those kind of things. To just really look into yourself. Where do I do that, right? As well. Can I work on this? And as I get better, when I am with someone who is crying and I can just sit there without having to give them tissues. I remember I did a healing week, and that was one of the things they said right at the beginning on the first day, the introduction, and when they kind of explained the rules of being, said when someone's crying, we are not to pass a box of tissue. And I thought, that's weird. I always thought that's something nice and caring, right? Here's some tissues, right? But it's not. It's my uncomfortableness seeing you crying, right? I need to do something about this. Instead of me sitting with, oh, this feels uncomfortable seeing you sad, but at the same time allowing that to be, and knowing that you're an adult being, you can get tissues if you want tissues, right? But me giving you tissues, that's taking you out of that sadness. It's shifting you from that, instead of allowing you to fully experience that, fully being in that emotion and being seen in that emotion, with that emotion, right? Does that make sense? And I think because this was like a healing week, this was specific for that, and we were all there for that, and we could make space for other people. That was a goal right there. So sometimes with friends, you might have to be very selective with whom you can do that and have a conversation about this, right? And you realize that often a lot of people really struggle to show their true emotion, right? And show what's truly going on for us. It is so important for people to show that everything is okay, right? Especially look at the social media, right? You would think everyone has the most happy, peaceful homes, right? Not so. I used to be a support worker in people's homes and being around that. I've seen other homes, and yes, people are going through difficult things that they're not showing outside, right? And sometimes we are triggered because you go in and that person's not even looking or acknowledging you that you are there, and you think it's all about you, and it's like, oh my gosh, right? I'm such a person, I'm such a flawed. I shouldn't be here, right? This person doesn't like me, and we're making it all about me. Well, in reality, if I step back from that, realizing, hey, what's going on there? She didn't even see me really, right? She's all caught up in her own mind. That's why she's going, or he's going through something really difficult himself. And the more I could see that other people's behaviors, aren't about me, right? Not always. Sometimes they are, but sometimes I can trigger things in people. And acknowledging that too, but the majority of the time, especially at the beginning when I was triggered, it wasn't actually about me. Because I always thought that it's only me who is that flawed. It's only me who is that broken. I am so different. I seriously thought I was so different to everyone else. And in a sense, it's true. We're all unique, but I really thought different, right? But we're all, it's about it being human, being in that body, that we're having all these disturbing, sometimes very disturbing and intrusive thoughts and stories that pull us away from this moment and create some havoc in our body. For our nervous system, we're completely dysregulated, right? To really to see that, right? That sometimes that's the best healing, actually, the best practice, when you're out and about, and when you in the moment can pause long enough to notice, oh, maybe this isn't about me. I just take a breath, and it's like, oh, I wonder what's going on for that person right now, that they have to be so snappy, so rude, right? Because when I look at myself, I know I have tendencies when there was a lot of stories going on still, when I still was reliving a lot of the traumas, I was very snappy, and I could be very rude to other people, right? And it didn't matter who that person was, whether I knew that person or whether this is a person I very much loved and cared about. It was almost like I had no control over this, right? It just happened, kind of thing. So I don't know where you're at on your healing journey, but that can happen. So, but if the other person takes that really personal, and you see that, then I'm creating suffering for them in that moment. But it was all about me. It was all actually just inside of me. And then afterwards, when you're going home and you realize that you've been rude and snappy and all the rest of it, right? We usually feel a lot of shame and embarrassment, and we wish it's fuel for our inner critique, and we get into these cycles, and it's really hard to get out of this. It's like a hamster wheel, isn't it? At least it was for me. It felt like this. Blue says, you're very beautiful and your soul shines. Your channel is perfect. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I do hope it is helpful. I'm trying these days to share more about what is real for me right now. Not so, I still want to share practices and tools and things like that, but when I started the channel in 2016, there wasn't really much available on complex PTSD in that sense. But now it's just like, poof, there's this explosion, right? There's so many new modalities. There's EMDR, there's internal family systems, hypnosis, inner child therapy, psychedelics, you name it, right? It's so much, so much out there. It's almost, that is overwhelming for people. And that in itself can get people in this, like, oh, I don't know what to do, right? The whole theme of this life today is like that, just falling into that, I don't know what to do, right? To sit with that uncomfortableness, but trusting that when you're getting out of your head and into your body a little bit more, there is a nudge, there is a pull towards something more than something else. And to just notice that and trust that, right? And trust that and go to that. Because there's no approach out there that is right for everyone. And I think, like, depending on where you're at on your healing journey, things that I did and I thought they were life-changing 10 years ago, now I'm thinking, my gosh, I wouldn't do that now, right? But it helped me in that moment. I allowed that to be, right? So now I'm always feeling like if I share practices with you and things like that, that there's a sense coming up. It's like, oh, I'm contradicting myself. And perhaps I do, right? But that is part of the healing. That is part of the inner growth. And the more we can allow for this, that things change. What's worked for me today might not be the right thing for tomorrow. and that I'm not disappointed in myself or the approach if that happens, right? I said, oh, it's not the right thing today. And it's just like having this pause and center myself instead of being just keeping myself busy and frantically going about or getting distracted on social media or whatever it is that you do, or exercising. We have all sorts of interesting ways to distract ourselves from that when something is like, oh, this isn't quite the way I wanted it to be, right? Can I just slow this down a little bit and be with it, right? That uncomfortableness, to really open up that window. You know that when Dan Siegel talks about the window of tolerance, you know, that I really like that concept actually, where he talks about, you know, that window of tolerance depending on every day, every moment of your day, that can go bigger, so it feels more spacey, and sometimes it can really shrink down. It feels like you have no window of tolerance, right? But when you're going above, you're more in that hyper aroused, hyper vigilant kind of state, the sympathetic nervous system activation. So you're going above that looks certain ways, and you need certain different approaches to help you to get out back into that window of tolerance again. Or sometimes we can plummet below, where it's the parasympathetic, the dissociation, the disconnection, the numbness, right? The immobilized kind of more senses that, again, it takes a different approach to get yourself back into the window of tolerance again. So the more we can slow things down and notice the little shifts within us, it's like, oh, something doesn't feel quite right. Instead of ignoring that sense and just pushing on anyway till it gets so big that it's really overwhelming, and then I'm so out there that I need medication to bring myself back in, right? And that's no judgment there, by the way, right? That was me. I have medication. I used to take lots of medication, right, to manage my PTSD. And I'm taking no medication now. It's no longer necessary. Wherever you are, you know, it might still help you. If you're so dysregulated, if you're so stuck in the sympathetic and you really can't get back into that window of tolerance, maybe medication is the best choice for you right now. That's okay. Right? Sometimes people get really caught up that that's wrong and that means that I'm weak and I'm not doing things right. And say, nah, just allow it. We have that option. We're living in a privileged country. I'm guessing you being here, having access to the internet, that you are in a country where you also have access to medication and things. Not everyone in this world has that, right? So it's an option for us to help us get back into that window of tolerance. But that, to me, is the game, that making that window of tolerance, make it spacious, right? My nervous system used to get activated by being spontaneous or flexible. It wasn't something that I could do. Everything had to be very planned and rigid, and there had to be routines about stuff. And again, that's not right or wrong, right? If this is still necessary for you, if that window of tolerance, by the way, was like this at that time, right? It was barely existing. And if the structure helped me to just make that a little bit bigger, the blandness, the predictability, knowing exactly what's happening, then I love for that, right? But to know that perhaps maybe next month, it doesn't feel right anymore, then I do something different to help me make this window of tolerance bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So I can feel more spacious and more free, and there's less tension. Everything used to feel so tense and constricted, right? It's like I had to keep everything so tight, right? It's literally I was holding so much tension in that body, but now it's just more free and open. And go back to the initial one of the first metaphors I shared. I'm like the sky. Right? And I don't want you to have a mental concept or thinking about I am the sky. It makes no sense. I want you to have that experience, right? Whether you use the sky or using the window of tolerance metaphor to experience what is it like to be more spacious, right? I always thought I had the emotions were in my body. and they were too big for this body, right? That's why it was so much tension there. But to relax and say, oh, I don't have to keep anxiety within this body. Anxiety is free to expand and expand and expand. And the bigger the space becomes, it's almost like, when you put a drop of color in a glass, how it just it loses its intensity in color, right? You can barely see it. And that's essentially what I did with the emotion. The bigger that window of tolerance, the bigger that space becomes, the less overwhelming that feeling became, the more I could actually just allow it to be there, right? Yeah. The emotions. Yeah. I never thought I would ever say that I enjoy emotions now, actually. All of them. Even the anxiety, there's something enjoyable there when you're no longer caught up in it, right? Like I used to say, well, sadness, it's okay to have some tears. It's okay to have that sadness. It's no longer all consuming, right? When I was going through depression, I never felt like I am depressed. I actually felt like I am depression. That's all of me is depression. There's nothing else left of me. That's it, depression, right? That's the intensity I used to feel emotions. And of course it wasn't enjoyable. It was very overwhelming. But now as I can allow emotions to be in this moment as they are, there's no right or wrong, right? Just whatever arises, it's valid. It's there. It has to be valid. And if I can accept that to be there and just slow down enough and see that there might be a message for me, right? There might be an emotion, and it might have a message for me. To just listen and allow that to be there and not turn it into some story or give it meaning. Yeah, cool. Ocean, that's beautiful. Well, I hope you find that useful, and I think I feel complete. I shared a lot. I do love it. I do enjoy it. And it was an honor to hang out with you guys here today and have you guys participate. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this space, and I might see you soon again. See you guys. Bye.